Hi everyone, it's Sandra, and today I am sharing 6 tips on how to stay positive during lockdown. So these are 6 tips that I personally practice, and I really hope that by sharing it you can try some of them, and the idea is to stay as positive as possible during this pandemic season. Before I go on, do check out my top 10 tips to motherhood empowerment PDF workbook. It is a fillable workbook, and also to check out my 5 Days to Motherhood Empowerment course. So here's my current situation. We live in Melbourne, Australia, and I think we're becoming one of the most frequent lockdown cities in the world. So we've had quite a few lockdowns, some longer and some shorter. Currently going through lockdown 6.0, which has been very, very long. I am a work-at-home mom of 2 young kids. So in a sense, because of my 2 little kids, I do find that I'm home a lot anyway. And in a sense, I don't feel a huge lifestyle difference to being in a lockdown situation. However, there are inconveniences, and there's been a lot of things that I wish I can do that I can't. So here are my 6 tips. Tip number 1 is I will cook or buy comfort food when I desire it. So like any human, I do feel like I really need comfort, especially when lockdown is first announced. Usually that's when we just kind of go like, what? Oh dear, that's happening again. And the most instinctive thing to do is I just wanna seek indulgence with food. Okay, so while we try not to go overboard, I do sometimes feel extra homesick, and then I desire special food from home. So then I'll find ways to get it, either by buying it if it's available, or by attempting to replicate it at home. I just think that is something at least we can do, right? So buying or eating, attempting to make comfort food. So tip number 2 is work out. I really try to make sure that I work out at least 30 minutes a day. So the thing I tell myself is we have 24 hours in a day. And if I were to be very intentional with how I spend my time, I do believe that it is possible to put in at least 30 minutes of some kind of a workout. I rotate between different kinds of workouts. It could be going out for a run, and I find going out has been really a huge boost to mental health. So as far as possible, I'll just try to do a lot of outdoors when the weather permits. So out for a run, sometimes to push my kids in their pram so that we all get a bit of fresh air. I also work out at home and rotate between yoga, cardio, and core workouts. I just think working out is, number 1, a huge way to keep our health and our weight in check from all those COVID calories, which, as I've mentioned in tip 1, happened because I do tend to feel like I need more comfort food, but also it's huge to just keep your heart rate up, and it's a natural way of releasing endorphins, and it's a really wonderful boost to our mental health, our physical health, and also our emotional health. And definitely in this era, we do not have any excuses when it comes to working out and not being able to go to the gym, because we can still work out in many other ways using a ton of free YouTube videos. And it's just about being resourceful and finding a video or a YouTube channel that you like. So if you don't have that habit yet, do try some videos out, and very soon, like me, you're going to find that same video, and then you're just going to want to redo that same video again and again. The same one video for yoga, the same one video for cardio, but the idea is to do it 30 minutes a day-ish. You can start with 10 and then push it up to 20, and then at the very least 30 minutes a day. That's what I will personally recommend. Sometimes I do miss it, but most times I keep at it, so I also enjoy better sleep at night. Tip number 3 is to know just enough in the news. I know some people who can just keep abreast with the news very frequently, but I just can't do that. First, it takes up a lot of time, and as a mom, I find things are just very intense at home. I go from one task to another, so I personally just choose not to look at my phone every half an hour or something. But I do try to spend at least a few minutes a day just reading through the headlines so I know enough about the news to make key decisions like, okay, what are the COVID numbers these few days? Does that mean we can send our child to childcare, and making decisions like that. When it comes to the news, just be very mindful of what the news does to you emotionally, and then what it does to you mentally as well. Because I find that when I read that, oh, COVID numbers are high, it really does affect me, and I just get very upset or disappointed or worried. So I just glance at the headlines sometimes, and then I just don't really go into any deeper details unless it's something that I really want to know, like what the rules are like now. Are restrictions lifted? Are restrictions tightened? So yeah, pretty much just know just enough. Maybe tell the friends and family around you to keep you updated about the key headlines, but you may always choose not to go deeper if you don't feel like it. I think it's our personal responsibility to know what our threshold is when it comes to news, and how knowing self-knowledge as well, like just knowing how we respond to certain news. And while it may seem a little bit irresponsible that we're purposely not finding out everything, at the same time, it's also our responsibility to take care of ourselves and to protect ourselves mentally and emotionally as well. Tip number 4 is to double down on what you can control. So you may find it useful to just kind of draw 2 columns. The first column, write down all the things that you are impacted by the lockdown. For example, I can't cut my hair at a hair salon. I can't eat at a restaurant, right? So just list down every single thing that you are personally impacted by, and that may also affect you emotionally, right? So then you realize, oh wow, I wrote down 12 bullet points. That's a lot of things that will affect how you feel. So then it kind of gives you a bit of an explanation. That's why you were feeling so down. There were 12 bullet points, right? But then we don't stop there. We want to then think about what we can do to deal with those bullet points. So for example, okay, I can't cut my hair in a hair salon. I can take a pair of scissors and try and cut a little bit of my hair at home, or get a family member to help me. So that is something we can do, right, to solve the problem somehow. Or we can't eat in a restaurant, but hey, we can still order from that restaurant, but we have to order takeout. So there are still ways to solve the problem, and we should just be very thankful from the fact that we can still order, for example, from that restaurant. Even if we can't eat in there, we can still eat food from there. So in that sense, we're still very blessed. Tip number 5 is to be very intentional, very deliberate about our gratitude practice. So for this, I will recommend writing it down or typing it in a notepad and really listing as many things you can be thankful for as you can. So thinking relentlessly positively about it from different angles. So here's a few ways that I'm personally thinking about the lockdown positively, that I can find things to be thankful for my personal encouragement, and I would like to share it with you so that may encourage you and make you feel better as well. For example, I am so thankful to be in lockdown at home instead of maybe a very uncomfortable place. So recently I found out about what life is like in prison, and I am just absolutely heartbroken when I find out that the conditions in prisons are absolutely terrible. And so I'm just thinking, oh wow, if I have to be on lockdown at home, it's such a luxury compared to what I know about life in prison. So that's just something we can be so thankful for, right? It's all about how you're comparing. If you are constantly comparing with life back when in the day there was no COVID, then you're always going to be upset, disappointed, angry, frustrated, suppressed. depressed. But if you start comparing to worse situations, then you will realize, wow, your life is currently just really luxurious and still there's quite a bit of freedom in the midst of all the restrictions. Another way I'm choosing to think is that sometimes just the idea of being in lockdown is bad because it is new, in the sense that this is not normal for us. We're so used to years of flying anywhere we want, going on holidays, and now suddenly we're all like within 5 kilometers of restricted travel and things like that. At least that's the situation here in Melbourne at the time of recording. So what I'm choosing to think is that, okay, if we start to think of this as a new normal, then we'll start to develop our own new routines and rhythms, and then it starts to become something a little bit more bearable. One way I want to hack this lockdown is that I really want to develop the best possible rhythm and routine so that it can be a new culture, a new ritual that our family can practice. So for example, on Sundays, we used to go to church. Like, that's just the most anticipated activity. That's the key event that happens on Sundays. Well, we can't do that anymore. So Sundays are now replaced by the key activity of going to a park near us. And then we will walk this lovely loop around the park, and then that becomes a highlight for us. So that has become our family's new ritual. And I think if you start developing your own ritual, something that you kind of look forward to in the weekends that you always do, that hopefully ticks a few other boxes as well, like outdoors and exercise and family bonding time, then that will be a win. So just hacking the lockdown by starting to think of it as a new normal instead of wishing for things that were in the past. I also think that by being in lockdown where I am, we're still able to go to the shops, and I don't mean retail, unfortunately. It's mostly essential services, but you know, the fact that we can still buy things in the supermarket is such a blessing. I do miss getting clothes and some other kind of less essential things, but just to be able to buy things in the supermarket, I think is such a huge blessing and something to be thankful for. The fact that our shops are well stocked and that they're still available to us. Sometimes I also compare myself with people who are living in much harsher conditions, like famines or war. And I'm just thinking, if they can survive, if they can thrive, then we can as well. So there's just a lot to be thankful for when you really actively seek out those reasons. And finally, tip number 6, I am determined to use this lockdown for good, for some kind of self-development, personal development. So for example, when it comes to personal development, for me, it would be things like working out. So I am working out because I'm telling myself I want to look better and fitter when I meet my friends and the next time they see me. You know, we could choose. Do you want them to see you and go, oh dear, you've gained weight and you look tired and you are more sluggish? Or do you want people to say, hey, wow, you look fit and you've lost weight? You know, so I think about what that scenario is like when we finally can hang out with people again, and then I work towards that positive goal. Another way is to consider learning a new skill that you can do at home. So something very doable will be to try out new recipes, or maybe to perfect the art of cutting your own hair. I feel like I've actually improved in the art of cutting my son's hair. And well, actually, I have been cutting my own kids' hair even when there's no COVID. So, but it's like, oh wow, I feel like this cutting hair for little boys thing is quite doable, at least for my own kids. So yeah, learning a new skill. And then improving in old skills as well. So recently I decided to come to this beautiful instrument next to me, and I just decided to open up some of my old piano books and I side played through stuff. So So sight playing just means you open up a score, probably it's something you haven't read in years or you've never read before, and then you just read the music and then you just play. And there's probably going to be tons of mistakes. My sight playing isn't the best at all, but just by making music, moving my fingers, feeling those muscles, and the whole exercise of reading and making music has been just so therapeutic. And so I really want to recommend doing that as well. Start thinking about what are some old hobbies or skills that you used to engage in, perhaps some kind of artistic outlet like photography. Maybe it's a kind of sport, maybe it's a ball game that, I don't know, you may not be able to play team sports, but maybe you could go somewhere and dribble the ball or something. Or maybe it's baking, something you used to bake a lot, something like an old skill that you can revisit, and it's just such a boost to mental health and a really fun activity to do during lockdown as well. Aside from self-development activities, I also want to use this lockdown for good by doing things that are productive. So for example, engaging in a side hustle, like doing this YouTube channel, that keeps me busy, and that also makes me feel like, hey, I'm doing something productive during my time at home that hopefully doubles up as, helping people or increasing income for our family, things like that. So side hustles or hobbies or projects, right? So these are productive tasks that we can choose to do at home, or even things like cleaning the house, because we can't engage a cleaner to come in anymore, even though I would very much like that. So I like to think of cleaning house as an activity that doubles up as a workout, so that becomes my workout of the day, and it can even double up as an intellectual stimulation time where I put on maybe a really good podcast or maybe a really good playlist. So during my time of cleaning the house, something that's not super pleasant, I can double up and learn something new in a book, or learn something like discover new music or something. So I really, really hope that you have found these 6 tips useful. Just to summarize, number 1, cook or buy comfort food. Number 2, working out outdoors if possible, also good for mental health. Tip number 3, know just enough in the news. Tip number 4, double down on what you can control. Number 5, very intentional and deliberate gratitude practice. Number 6, determine to use this lockdown for good, either in self-development activities or in productive tasks. Do be sure to check out my top 10 tips to motherhood empowerment. That's a free PDF workbook that you can download, link below, and also my 5 Days to Motherhood Empowerment online course. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.